my pleasure to be able to join you this week to share a message from this week's Torah portion, Parashat Vayigash. There's so much that we anticipate about people's behavior and their actions and their intentions. And sometimes we're completely right, and sometimes we're way off the mark. The rabbis teach us that Esav was from the most difficult characters. He becomes the father of a nation that grows to hate us. And on the other hand, we have Yosef, who is known as Yosef HaTzadik. But truly in their core, we have no idea who they were or what motivated them. We could equally make a case that Joseph didn't have the best of intentions, and that Esav was purely a guy who was just trying to do what's right. And so we have a unique circumstance in the text of the Torah in which we have, I think, a comparison between the motivations of Esav and the motivations of Joseph. The motivation of Esav, as you recall, early back in Parashat Vayishlach, when he meets up with his brother Yaakov for the first time in so many years. Yaakov had been on the run because he was afraid that Esav was going to kill him for stealing the birthright. And they finally meet up after many, many years. And we see the tumult and the anxiety that Jacob feels in that moment. But we're not privy to any of the internal machinations of Esav. And so when they finally meet up with each other, we have this great statement, Vayaratz Esav likrato, that Esav ran to meet Jacob, Vayichabkehu, and he embraced him, Vayipol al tzavarav, and he fell on his neck, Vishakehu vayivku, and he kissed him, and they cried. And it's strange, because the rabbis say in so many different locations that Esav's intention was to do harm to Jacob. In fact, there's one midrash that says that Jacob's neck turned to marble, so that when Esav tried to bite into him in order to hurt him, that he was unable, he was unsuccessful. So the rabbis think of Esav as bad, and Jacob in that scenario as the victim. And then we see in this week's Parashat Vayigash, in which Joseph is finally reunited with his brothers after so many years. And we imagine the tumult, the anxiety, the pressure of that moment as it builds in Joseph as he begins to ready himself to meet his brothers. And he has seen them, but they have not seen him. He knows who they are, but they have no idea who he is. And finally, in this week's Parsha, in a climactic moment, Joseph can't hold it in anymore, and he runs to meet his brothers, Vayipol al tzavare Binyamin, and he falls on the neck of Binyamin, Vayevch, and he cried, Uvinyamin bacha, and Binyamin cried al tzavarav, on his neck, Vayinashek lecholecha vayevch alehem, and he kissed them, and they had a good cry together. It's almost the identical language as we saw with the reunion of the brothers Esav and Yaakov, here with Yosef and his brothers. Almost the identical language asks the following question: how are these similar? How are these circumstances similar? And how are they different? They're different in the attention that we give to the intention of the primary players. For Esav, we imagine him to be bad, and here he does something good. For Yosef, we imagine him to be good, but yet he has really brought some anguish on his brothers. The question that's placed before us in these two scenarios is not what happens to bad people and what happens to good people. It's not the question that Harold Kushner asks, and that is, what happens when bad things happen to good people, or when good things happen to bad people. The question here is, what happens to our sense of reality when maybe bad people do good things, or maybe when good people do bad things? What really rattles our world is not the natural environment, but it's the environment that we make ourselves. What rattles the individual, what shakes us to the core, is not when a hurricane blasts through a scenario, a city, and the people rally around to help. That doesn't shake us at our core. What shakes us at our core is when good people sometimes do bad things. And when bad people sometimes do good things, we're utterly confused about the way human nature is and the existence of humanity and the human project moving forward. So I challenge us all this week to look for the good in every person and to forgive the bad in those who don't reach the mark. Have a wonderful weekend. I thank you for sharing this time with me.